Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art.
Welcome to the Sunshine Sisters podcast. We're so happy to have you here with us today, so thanks for tuning in.
Yes, we have an exciting topic to discuss today. First, we wanted to share our song that we recently posted. We put it on our YouTube this last week. You maybe got a small glimpse on our Instagram, but we sang Reaching Out, and you should all go give it a listen because it was really a good experience for us to create it, and we found it to be very beautiful to sing together. So we hope you can enjoy.
We love that song and the message that it portrays to us and just the hope and the peace we can find through the Savior. So we hope you enjoy. And this song is special to me because I was reminded of it this year, the beginning of this year. I had heard it before, but there was this really sweet member who was in Sabrina and I's mission in Montana. I don't know if you guys knew that, but we served our missions in Montana. And there's a sweet member, and we actually lived with him and his family at the time. And so he's been so great at keeping in touch with us. And the beginning of this year, it was a bit of a trial in Spencer and I's life, just because Spencer was going through some health things with, like his kidney stones, which is very painful and not fun, and just procedures. And so we had a lot of just sleepless nights because he was in so much pain, and I was doing all I could to help him, and just, it was a difficult time for us. And just during that time, I remember this member had reached out to me, and he was like, "Hey, how are you doing?" And it was just perfect timing. And so I was able to kind of just tell him what was going on. And so throughout the week, he would send uplifting messages. And that was one of the messages, was the song Reaching Out from the 2020 youth album. And I listened to that over and over again, and it was just so peaceful to me. And I just loved listening to that song at the beginning of this year, and I still love listening to it. And so Sabrina was so wonderful in doing this song with me because it was just one that I had been really loving. So anyways, we hope you enjoy it.
Yes, that's the sweetest story that I've ever heard. Shout out to Joe. We love him so much.
Me too.
He is the greatest friend and supporter, and everyone needs a Joe in their life. I love that so much.
It is so true.
Well, we have, like I said, a very interesting topic to discuss today. And this was just an idea that was brought to us, is how we saw God in high school. Who we were in high school, how we saw God, our experiences, and what has changed since then. Which, to me, I feel like a lot. There is a whole lot of things that I have learned and that has changed. So, have this on your mind. We want to share pictures of ourselves when we were in high school. I still feel like I'm probably in the 4th grade, so lots of things have changed, some things haven't. But share with us a picture of you in high school now, then and now, because those are like so fun to see. Time has just flown. Time has flown, and God is doing lots of good things in all this time. So
it's so true. It is so true. And I just feel like it's cool to look back at ourselves and to see all that's changed, you know? Of course, our lives change a lot, but also just who we are as people, And it's crazy looking back at who I was in high school a couple years ago and just kind of comparing the differences. Like, I'm still me, I'm still Kylie. But I look back and I'm like, wow, I had some different perspectives on things and I've learned a lot since then. And I feel like some of those things that come to mind is like Kylie then in high school. Um, I feel like she appeared as a very happy person, which I think, from what I've heard from people, has continued with me. But that Kylie at the time thought that's all she could be, and that's all she could appear as was happy. And she was afraid to show other versions of herself. She was afraid to show frustrated Kylie or sad Kylie or. And even now, there's still people that tease me and they're like, I've never seen you get angry before.
Oh, we've seen it.
Sabrina has seen that side of me. Being companions
Spicy
together.
Kylie.
I feel like, I will say though, I think some of those sides of me, it is vulnerable for me to share those sides, and I feel like I have to get on a certain level of trust with people to show those sides of me. And, that's just kind of how I tend to be. Which, not that that's a bad thing. I think it's good to build relationships with people, like, until we feel like safe and comfortable to share different sides of ourselves, But I'm still working on trying to still be vulnerable, though, with people, even now. But at the time, though, I really struggled with showing my emotions. And I've been learning since then that God is compassionate towards me, and being happy doesn't mean I'm perfect. In fact, like, feeling all the emotions is a good thing, and that helps me become who I am. It helps me feel more grounded as a person, and being able to show my emotions more, it helps me not build things up inside, and I feel like I can enjoy happiness more fully just because I've allowed myself to feel emotions that maybe are more difficult to go through. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's just the best way to explain it. I think that's one of the biggest changes since high school for me.
I really like that because this certain song came to my mind as you were talking about this that just applies so perfectly. I listened to it on my mission all the time. I don't know how to say his last name correctly. I think it's Chris Renzema. Do you know the song 17 by him?
I don't know.
Well,
need
you're
to
gonna
listen
know
to
it
it.
soon. It is really good. I used to play this, and we couldn't have our phones in the bathroom. And so
Oh, yeah.
I remember when I was with one of my companions, Sister Maury, and I would take my phone and I'd like make a playlist like before I went into the bathroom of like a bunch of songs, or like this one song I put on repeat like 5 times, and then I'd like slide it next to the door and turn off the lights and take a shower at night and just like vibe in the shower and just feel all my feels and listen to this song. So
I love that.
clearly tender to me. But I play this song and sing this song all the time, but it's called 17, and it is seriously about wishing to be 17. This is the thought that came to me, is there's a lot of things that I look back and I'm like, if only I had known this when I was a teenager or when I was in high school or growing up. Like, if only I had known this. But honestly, another part of me is sometimes I wish I had the same naive and I feel like I've gotten better in a lot of ways, but I also feel like I've developed more bad habits along the way, or I've developed like I used to say, like enduring to the end or just loving one another. Like I was taught how to do that growing up, and I was like, easy, obviously, like keep the commandments. But now that I'm having more experiences, I'm like, man, this is actually really hard. Like, it's not very easy to love one another. It's not very easy to forgive people. It's not very easy to just keep going, to endure to the end, and to have faith. Like, that stuff seemed so much easier to me when I was in high school. And, though, of course, I learned a lot of things, but still sometimes I compare myself to that high school person that I'm like, things were so much more simple then. And so this chorus says, feel like I was so much wiser when I was 17, saw the world in just two shades, didn't stand in the in-between. If the man I was back then saw who I am right now, I wonder if he'd be disappointed in how he would turn out. So I'll try to be honest with myself again, but I can feel just so uncomfortable in my skin. I know you told me that you loved me, but I don't remember when. And then the end of the song is kind of what you just said. It's like God speaking to him, and he's like, if only you saw me how I saw you. I'm not disappointed in you. Like, look how far you've come. And you're made in my image. Like, I have so much compassion for you. You're so much more than you think. He's like, you've been through so much. Your heart is tired. And so, like, I'll be here with you is kind of what he talks about at the end of the song. Yeah, like, I really am torn between, wow, I wish I knew more about God. I wish that I wasn't so like this all the time and didn't see things so black and white. Because maybe things would be different of how things turned out or how I turned out. But at the same time, it's like, wow, it was a very simple time then. It was a lot simpler. And it was meant to be at that time. It was meant to be, and that's who I was meant to be. And I'm meant to be who I am now. And I might have a lot more baggage now. There's a lot more on my back that I'm carrying than I was then, though it was still a lot on my back for my age, but now there's more things. And God has shown me more. Just, he becomes more and more compassionate for me every year. Every day he shows more and more of his love. And I think that's because his spirit keeps telling me to go back to him.
Thank you so much for those thoughts, Sabrina. I think that is so true. So true. God, he just loves us no matter what. That's what you made me think of. No matter where we are in life or what stage we're at, however much we've changed, whether that's for the good or for, the not so good. I think it's amazing how he just loves us, and he's like, just keep going. Like, that's all I want you to do is just keep going in life. I just want you to keep moving, take it day by day, because that means you're getting closer to being home with me. And he's just so excited to see us home with him again. And he's so excited to see our growth, the things we overcome, and the things that help us become more like Jesus Christ. He's just so excited about all those little milestones, It's just so, so beautiful. And I love how we keep saying the word compassion, because God is so compassionate. And I think that's just a huge thing I've learned about God and who he is that he's compassionate towards me and in my growth and my mistakes and the things I'm learning, becoming. And I think, like you said, at the time when we were in high school, things did feel a lot more simple then. And like you said, it seemed easy to just love one another, I remember I had the mindset, I was like, I don't care, like, what mistakes people have made, like, I just love them because I know God's gonna take care of them and everything. Because, like, I don't need to worry about that, And even on the mission, like, we came across so many people that went through some really difficult things in their life. And we taught people in very difficult circumstances where it'd be really easy to judge them, and be like, oh my gosh, how could they have made those decisions, and all of that. But I think we were just so focused on Christ and everything that we're like, oh my gosh, like, well, you're amazing, and we're just happy to teach you, and like, there's no judgment here, And then when I came home from my mission, it hit me that I was like, whoa, okay, it was so easy to love them. These people that I hardly knew. But wow, the people I do know and that I'm close to and that I love because of our experiences and connection we've made in life, when those people make mistakes that are really challenging, or when those people have difficult circumstances, I found it's harder to find compassion towards them, especially if it affects you and you have to find forgiveness towards that, whatever decisions they've made or whatever they've done to you. It's harder when you personally know them and you've had experiences together than someone maybe you just met and, kind of heard a glimpse of the things they've done in life,
Yeah.
And so that was a big learning experience for me when I got home from my mission. Was, wow, like, I know God has compassion towards these individuals I know that maybe I feel like I'm feeling hurt from, So I had to pray for the Lord to give me some of his compassion so that I could also give that to these individuals. Maybe they're not trying to intentionally hurt me, but there's just some times where it's easy to take things personally, from people's decisions that they make in life. And so I have been learning, and I've been learning to grow my compassion towards people and really giving it to the Lord and being like, okay, this is in the Lord's hand. I just need to love them. I just need to be there and show them that I care about them and that they're important to me, and I need to forgive. And that's what the Lord wants me to do. And so that's been a big learning experience for me.
I agree with all those things that you said. And it reminded me of something I heard in a podcast I was listening to this morning. Do you listen to Emily Bell Freeman's Inklings podcast ever?
Ooh, I've heard of it.
I totally recommend it for anyone who's a podcast listener. I love it. And she said something, I think she was quoting someone else. I'm not very good at remembering, but she said that you can only give grace as much as you understand God's grace. And so I was thinking, the compassion that I give to other people is only as much compassion I feel like God has for me. I can be really hard on other people if I am feeling like maybe God is hard on me. I'm hard on myself because I think that that's how God sees me. Comparing that to growing up, I saw things, like we've said, black and white, and I thought things were just very checklisty. And I honestly can say I think I was a little self-righteous growing up. I think I was a little bit like, oh, they're not doing that, but I am, and I'm gonna just be an example. And sometimes I can still slip into that mindset, and I've really been trying to overcome that and just be focusing on my journey with God and with Christ instead of worrying about what everyone else's journey should look like. Because that is, first of all, none of my business. What is my business is loving them. That's my business. My business is sharing God's love. That's what the gospel is. Being a missionary isn't changing someone's life. You don't do that. That's what God does. You share. And I thought that I was the one that was supposed to fix people's lives or fix them or make them more righteous or make them more whatever. And that's something that I've been trying to overcome because I've had to learn that no, God's like, no, that's not your role. That's my role. That's who I am. I'm the only one that judges. You don't judge. You only love. You only forgive. I used to think that, we grow like this and then we finally reach Christ. And we're like, finally, one day, once I fill out all those Christ-like attributes at a level number 10, then I've made it. And God just isn't a level up God. He's an expansion God. And when we learn knowledge and gain light, we expand our light, we expand our love, we expand our knowledge. It's not like we are transactionally gaining something. It's like, no, we're just growing and growing, not just upwards, but all the way out. And that impacts how I see other people, you know. No one's reached certain level anything. We're on the same path because that's how God sees us. We're all the same.
That is beautiful. The gospel is a gospel of progression. It's not just a gospel where we stay stagnant. It's progression. That's what it is. And I love that. We just keep expanding into something greater and greater until we can eventually become like God. I don't know exactly what that looks like now because my knowledge is limited on this earth, but one day we'll come to understand that and what that fully means and entails. And that's just such an exciting thought. And especially because it allows us to be more forgiving and compassionate towards ourselves and where we are now. And I just think that's so beautiful. So thank you for sharing those thoughts. And you also made me think about how I find the times in my life where I'm more forgiving and compassionate towards myself, I'm more compassionate and forgiving towards other people. Or I know I worry about what people think of me sometimes. And I find like times in my life where maybe I'm more judgmental towards other people, then I worry more about what they think of me, you know? And it's just kind of interesting. And so, I don't know, you just made me think about that. And I love that you said that God sees us the same, really, you know? And I think that actually was a big step in helping me find compassion towards these loved ones in my life who had been making decisions that I didn't necessarily appreciate, you know? I think that helped me actually was remembering, okay, God sees us as the same, like, someone's sins aren't greater than my sins aren't greater than their sins, you know? Like, we're just all doing our best, you know? And if I had someone else's circumstances, I might be struggling with the same thing they are. And if they had my circumstances, then they'd probably struggle with the things I am. And I actually learned that in counseling because I went to a bit of counseling, like, some time ago, like right when I got back from my mission, and I learned a lot of things regarding compassion, and you just reminded me of those things, so thank you, because sometimes it's easy to forget about these tools, you know, that we learn in life, and then it's cool how just the Spirit can remind us, because it's there, that knowledge is there in our mind of things we've learned throughout our lives. So it's cool when the Spirit can bring that back to remembrance, and how even you, Sabrina, like you were a part of that to help me through the Spirit remember those things that I learned. And I want to keep thinking about that to, you know, help me throughout the rest of my life. So I really like that.
Oh, that was very, very sweet. And that makes me think of experiences too, like though I might look back at when I was younger and be like, man, I really did things the wrong way. I have to remember the spiritual experiences too that God gave to me. Just because I said like love one another then, and I'm saying it now, just because it's harder now doesn't mean that truth isn't still just as equally important. I still knew truths then, and they're the same truths that are here now, and he has to remind me like, remember this, and remember these experiences and spiritual times where I came and I talked to you, and I still talk to you now. I still love you just the same. We have the same relationship, but we're just expanding together.
Ooh, I love that. We're expanding together. That's perfect. It's amazing how much we have to be reminded of those truths and of God's love. Like even in the scriptures, you'll see that all the time. Remember. Remember, because if we're not perfect, and that's okay, and it's easy to let things slip our minds, especially when life can get crazy and and things can distract us at times. I'm just so grateful for the Holy Ghost, and I don't know what I'd do without the Holy Ghost in my life, because that Spirit sure reminds me of a lot of things in life where he's just like, hey, remember this? Remember God loves you. Or remember not to be too hard on yourself. Or, all those things. He always gives us reminders. We just have to recognize them. And he gives them daily, all the time.
Very
all the time.
true.
We just have to
Very
learn to
true.
recognize those reminders. It makes me think of how our spirits are like a muscle, how, when we're trying to strengthen a muscle, just the same way we have to exercise daily, and, we have to try to get into those good habits so that we can continue to grow and nourish our spirits to get where we want to be eventually. And so I don't know, I kind of like to think of that analogy sometimes. And so comparing building a muscle to building our spirits. And you can probably come up with so many analogies, honestly, whether that's growing a flower or whatever it is.
But I think the muscle is really applicable to this topic too, because like it made me think of, when I did dance in high school, and I was a lot more flexible then and a lot more in shape in some ways. And sometimes and I feel like a lot of people feel this, they're like, man, if I just was in the same shape as I was in high school or something. And it's the same thing as like there were some habits I was better at, not just like when it comes to, physical muscles, but spiritual muscles. Some things came a lot easier. But now I'm like, sometimes it's not as easy. So I just have to build that muscle up again. Gotta keep going to the spiritual gym.
Oh my gosh, that is so interesting. I love that. And you're right, it's very similar to what we were talking about, how, we do look back sometimes and we're like, oh, I wish I was like that again.
I love all of this because it's just been it's not like, oh man, let's feel sad about that person we used to be and just be better now. It's like, I appreciate all parts of my life, who I am now, who I was then, and who I'm becoming. And I appreciate that God's been a part of every single part of that. Sometimes maybe he felt more quiet at times, but like I appreciate all of it. And I love him for every single moment of my life. Like everything was meant to happen. It was all by his design. And so this was a good reminder for me.
Me too. Absolutely. I agree. And the Lord is just so good. And this is just your daily reminder that he loves you and he's there for you and mindful of you. And he's always reaching out. So
I love it.
Oh, so good. Sabrina, before we finish, I need to hear your sunshiny moment.
Oh my gosh, I haven't even thought of my sunshiny moment. Oh, I've got it. Actually, I have it. It immediately came to me. First of all, Easter was this weekend, and I feel like a lot of Easter was just so wonderful. God just shone his light down upon me this weekend. I was really grateful because I wanted it to be more special, since, like the prophet and the apostles have been encouraging us to create Easter like Christmas. And so my family took that very seriously, and Ben and I, we tried to study the Holy Week during the week and to get in the mindset, and we all sang and talked about a story of Christ on Easter with my family. And so all day it had me pondering about who he was and how I felt about him. And I had just special experiences throughout the day where I just felt such a gratitude for Easter, for Christ and the atonement and his resurrection and the gospel of Jesus Christ. And we performed this Easter program, and I just felt the Spirit so strong as all my siblings and my dad shared their stories and sang. And my dad sang, "O Lord, my Redeemer." And I just closed my eyes and poured tears like the whole time. Like, it was so special. That was definitely my sunshiny moment. I really loved it. And seeing all my family, my family and my in-laws, it was just a really special, special sunshiny day. So
That's amazing. I want to join your Easter. That sounds so wonderful.
we've never done it before, so it was special. You can come next
That's
time for
awesome.
sure.
I think that's awesome. I think my sunshiny moment, it was a pretty simple moment. So the little backstory to it is that last week I was sick all week and it was not very fun because I just stayed inside the whole week. And we've been having this beautiful springtime weather, and so it's just hard knowing I was missing out on the beautiful time of year. And so it was just not my favorite of weeks. But towards the end of the week, I started getting my energy back up again. I just remember stepping outside for the first time after a week, and I was like, wow, this is amazing. I love feeling the fresh air on my face and breathing in all of the flowery smells of springtime and feeling the sun on my skin. And I just feel like it's easy sometimes to take just even being outside for granted. And so I just really enjoyed that moment and just being outside again.
I love it. That was a true sunshiny moment.
It was a literal sunshiny moment.
A literal sunshiny moment. I loved that.
So thank you all for listening.
Yes, we would love to hear your sunshiny moment. Please, if you would like, we would love to hear it. So send us a DM on our Instagram or even comment below what your sunshiny moment is, and we will share it. We'll do a highlight next week. Each week we'll choose somebody's to share because we all need some more sunshiny moments in our lives. Some more sunshine. So we'd love to hear it. And we'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Then sings my soul.